Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist, nomadcapitalist.com, coming to you from Astana, Kazakhstan. And this is one of those videos where I want to share with you not more information, not the latest tax reduction strategy, not the latest way to get a passport, but I want to share with you something that I think is a lot more important. And that is the deep work that I've done over the last 11 years since being nomadic on one question. And this is potentially the one question that almost everyone I see fail to implement their Nomad Capitalist plan, everyone who gives up, everyone who becomes weak, everyone who abandons their dreams, they never ask themselves this question. I try and get people that I'm helping to ask themselves this question, and we try and really dig in at a deep level. So I want to ask you this question. I want to talk about what I've learned about it, how I came about it, and give you some examples. And that question is this: what is it you want out of life? It's a bit metaphysical, perhaps, but I think it's important. And so the deep work that I've learned over the 11 years, when I started trying to figure this Nomad Capitalist stuff out 11 years ago, I did not have nearly the self-awareness that I have now. I think we all gain it as we get older, but I've really focused in the latter part of that time on gaining a lot of self-awareness and improving my mindset. 11 years ago, I wasn't really asking myself that. There was just this kind of emotional thing of anger against the US, of desire to see the world, probably something to do with women in there, honestly. Just kind of surface level stuff, right? Nothing that was really examined too closely. And so what I've learned, just very briefly, over the last 11 years is being in different cultures. Whether it's Georgia, Malaysia, the US, the UK, Australia, Thailand, I mean, any culture. I've learned that every culture has their own version of BS, their own version of dishonesty and lying to themselves as a people. And you may see it a little bit when you visit, not much. When you start to live there and spend some time, you see it more and more, which is why I've tried to dig in a lot of different places and really spend extended periods of time. When you start doing business, start doing deals, start exchanging money at higher and higher levels, that's when it really bubbles to the surface. And you see what the local BS is in each culture. And what I found is that most of us go through life lying to ourselves about a lot of things, including what it is that we want. And this may seem really simple. You may think you have it all figured out. That's what I thought 11 years ago. I felt that I had everything figured out. Nobody was smarter than I was. Nobody could tell me or suggest anything else. And over the last 11 years, I've gained this self-awareness. So I'll give you an example of why this really matters. So I recently got engaged, and we're doing the preparations for the wedding. And I suppose, like a lot of women, my fiance says, I'd like to, be in my best shape for my wedding dress. Now, she's in pretty good shape now. She's gone to the gym. She eats well. She's fine. But she says, hey, let's just be the best I can be. And so what does she do? 5 days, 6 days a week, she's waking up. She's going to the gym, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day. And she's working out and she's seeing results. She got a trainer, seeing results. We talked on other videos about the power of having a trainer. She did that. So she comes home one day, she's looking good, and I said, you know what? I think I want to go to the gym too. I want to look good. I got I'm not in bad shape, I don't think, but I got a little, maybe a little love handle. Let's just be in my best shape. So what do? I wake up in the morning, I check the Financial Times, I check my currencies, I talk to people around the world. I'm looking at stuff for business. Maybe at the end of the day, I do 10 push-ups on the living room floor. Have I been to the gym? No. Have I called a trainer? No. I did go to a trainer last year for a while, and it was very helpful. But have I done that since I said, I want to go to the trainer for the wedding? I want to go to the gym. No, I haven't been to the gym. I hang out and I do a few push-ups in the living room. Do I really want to go to the gym? Do I really want to be in the best shape? No, not really. And this is just an example of the white lies that we tell ourselves. I've been fortunate to accumulate friends and mentors over the years who say, hey, if you want something, you do it. What you do is what you want. When people come to me and say, hey, Andrew, I want a second passport. Great, what are you doing about it? Well, I've been reading blogs and I've been, doing this and that. Oh, yeah, how long has it been? It's been like a year. Oh, okay. Well, I just talked to this guy over here a year ago and he just got his second passport, right? So do you really want it? Well, you can't, and people get defensive. And so I think it's really important to ask yourself what it is that you want. I remember I knew a guy a while ago. He would say, people would always come up to me and say, you're traveling over all these different countries all around the world. He said, I want to do what you do. If you've traveled, you probably had people say that to you. How do you do it? I want to join you. That sounds like a dream job. Okay, buy a plane ticket. Buy a plane ticket. I mean, how much does that cost? Less than $1,000. Maybe in some places a heck of a lot less. Buy a plane ticket. Try it. Put the toe in the water. First steps first. Well, no, you don't understand. Here's what I've learned from traveling all around the world. Every culture has their own BS. Every culture, for the most part, has the same BS of when someone gets called on and they're not wanting to do something that they claim they want to do, but they really don't by their actions. No, but you don't understand. It's complicated. Nothing's complicated. If you want to do something, you'll do it. I remember having a mentor who said, Andrew, if you spend as much time on learning a language or on, doing whatever that you do on your business and on your finances, you'd be unstoppable. You'd speak 20 languages. But in reality, yeah, as much as I think that it'd be cool to speak a language, I speak some of a couple other languages. I can get around. But I think to myself, wow, how cool it'd be to be fluent. Like to be really, like a native. I don't do it. And so here's where I think this affects you in your offshore plan and when it comes to living the nomad capitalist lifestyle, is everything you do as a trade-off. Okay? Tomorrow, evening here in Kazakhstan, morning in the Americas, I'm going to call my banker and we're going to send the final 117,000 euros to Montenegro for me to purchase a property there, a new house I'm buying. This is the final payment. And, I've gotten pretty comfortable doing that. But I can tell you the first time I went and sent money overseas, it was pretty scary. I think I sent like $5,000 or something. It's like, ooh, what if it doesn't get there? The first time I hired someone to help me, it was scary. I told stories about how I really fought people that, I don't want to pay you, I don't want to hire you. It was scary. And, what I've realized, traveling, sometimes I live in places, for example, where, I can't buy stuff I want. What did I need recently? I needed a certain kind of underwear. And it's like, all right, I'm going to go on Amazon, I'm going to send it to my mailbox in the US, and I'm going to have the mailbox forwarded to where I'm at, and I'll have the lawyer's assistant who helps me, and they'll go pick it up. And if there's a duty or anything, I'll pay that. If there's a tariff, great. And, problem solved. I can afford it, right? Do I really want that stuff? Do I really want, any of the other stuff that I want? I mean, there's a way to do everything is my point. Do you really want to do it? If your answer is, oh, yeah, but it's going to cost me an extra $30 to have all the underwear sent to me, well, I guess you don't really want it. And that's fine. But when it comes to the nomad capitalist stuff, to bring it back to that, listen, if you want legal tax reduction, we made another video. I mean, it's not about moving your assets anymore. It's about moving your ass. I'm not saying you have to never go back to the US or Australia or wherever you're from, but you can't just sit around in Australia and not pay taxes in Australia. You can't just be there 365 days a year, okay? Those days are over. And are you willing to do that? Is it worth it for you to grow your business or to grow your portfolio or to keep more of your own money to say, you know what, I'm going to save $250,000 by spending part of my time over here? Now, people say, oh yeah, of course, it's a great deal. I meet people all the time and I'll tell them a story. Hey, this guy, he was living over here and all he had to do was make this small tweak and, and I'll tell them the whole story. Oh, okay, he could have saved $400,000. It would have cost him like $50,000 to put it in play and then he would have been set for life. Wow, that guy, if that guy doesn't do it, he's a real idiot. And then they proceed to make excuses. Oh, things have changed. Oh, it's complicated. Oh, you don't understand. Now, I'm not trying to push anyone into moving overseas. Okay? The same thing applies when it comes to opening an offshore bank account. It can be a little scary. You know, you may have a worry. What if there's some issue? Now, it's mostly irrational stuff because banks everywhere generally are okay, right? I mean, you don't see every bank in Singapore failing, right? People are doing okay there, but maybe it feels a little scary. You know, when it comes to investing overseas, the same thing. It's a little scary. You know, there always are trade-offs in life. And so the question is, you know, which trade-offs are you willing to accept? What do you want out of life? If what you want out of life is to, you know, live near your parents in Australia or in the US or in Canada, wherever you're from, and to never leave your parents, you know, they live on the farm, for example, or whatever the situation is, and you just want to be there, living on the same block, and, you know, raise your kids, going on the bicycle, you know, with the grandparent, all that. If that's what you want, then maybe that's more important for you than the tax savings. You know, if, you know, feeling comfortable and supporting your country is more important to you than maximizing your investment returns, then I guess you'll keep your money in Australia, making 1% on real estate, than putting it in, say, you know, Cambodia and making a lot more. So I think that where people get kind of hung up is they look at these questions as a judgment, as if there's a right or wrong answer. Sometimes I'll be talking to people, I'll be helping someone out, and they'll kind of act like I'm asking a leading question. I don't ask leading questions. If I say, hey, does that feel good to you? Or, hey, do you want to do this over here? There's no judgment. Doing what I do isn't the requirement. But what do you want out of life? And what I want you to do is I want you to go deeper than the surface level. I want you to go you know, below the stuff that I talked about myself doing 11 years ago, where I say, oh, I don't like the US. This is what I want. I want to live in Thailand because I hate the US. Well, you can't really run from something. That's not what you want. You may not want that one thing, but that doesn't mean that then by extension you want this other thing. You might go to Thailand to be miserable. You know, if you hate the US, maybe the issue is working through that and making that work better, not running away. So I say run towards something. Run towards what you want. You know, if living in Thailand helps facilitate a lifestyle with more freedom and more money and more wealth creation and, you know, better social life, whatever it is that you want, that's what you should run towards. And so I had to go back and kind of recalibrate after I first started, you know, the negatives into positives. I had to go back and recalibrate, you know, what do I really want to do? Because there will be times when you're doing this that you're going to question yourself. I don't think there's a single person out there who is living this lifestyle, the nomad capitalist lifestyle, that hasn't at some point, you know, broken down and said, maybe I should just go back to where I'm from. Now, I'm not saying you can't go back to where you're from. I'm not saying you're forbidden to ever go back. What I'm saying is, you know, I think all of us have had a moment where we've said, we've been frustrated and we've said, maybe I should just go back to the US and live there. Maybe it's worth it. In my case, hey, you know what? I live a lot more affordably. I have more friends. I have, you know, more money over here. But hey, you know, maybe, I don't know. Whenever it's usually when I'm at some Belgian restaurant and I'm paying €6 for a bottle of water for like a bird, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should just go back. You know, get a tap water this big for free. But you're going to have those moments. Most people that I'm helping, they will have some moment. And so my job as the person helping isn't to tell someone, here's what you should do. I see my job is to do an inventory with someone and figure out what do you really want to do and what can you do. And if you've got a spouse who doesn't want to do what you want to do, well, that you've got to resolve. But what do you really want to do? What is most important to you? Only once we determine that through a process of really diving deeper below the surface, below just the superficial, the negativity and just the little annoyances, when we really dig deep into what it is that someone wants, then and only then can we hold that person accountable for getting done what they really want. There's a difference between a moment of weakness, such as, you're upset and you just say, hey, I want to go back to the US because you're sad for a moment. There's a difference between that and saying, you know what, here are my fundamental core beliefs that I just want to be in the US, for example. Most people want to live where they're from. That's the reality, right? As I always say, when I ask someone, are you comfortable paying as much tax as you are? Again, people think it's a leading question. But it's not a leading question because, as I say, there's 40 million people in California. Many of them are rich, or at least a good number of them are rich. And apparently they don't mind paying. So apparently it is comfortable. What's more important to you? If you, are just so used to that Malibu, culture, you're living on the beach and you have your friends and all that, if that's what's important to you, then hey, saving $500,000 a year by not living there anymore may not work for you. That may not be what you really want. And as much as you might be sick and tired of paying taxes every year, you might say, this is ridiculous, they're wasting my money. Okay, well, but if that's what that's the trade-off. That may be the trade-off. Now, we can talk all we want here at Nomad Capitalists about the fact that we're conditioned from a young age to say, rah, rah, USA, or, wherever we're from. We're conditioned as human beings to be creatures of habit and to want to stay. This whole nomadic thing, even going back to Marco Polo and all these guys, yes, it was romantic. Yes, it was adventurous. Yes, it seemed as exciting. But there's a reason you talk about those guys. There's a reason people even today talk about the nomad, because it is the minority. Most people have decided that the trade-off of making higher investment returns, having more personal freedom, not being held hostage to one government, keeping more of their own money, growing their wealth faster, they've said, you know what, that's great, but mom lives down the block. So that's number one for me. That's what I want. And what I think I see in people who come to us at Nomad Capitalist and people who comment here on YouTube, etc., is that there's this great desire on a superficial level to, keep more of your own money. Now, it would be easier for me to say, yes, play to the superficial part and just, collect as much money as possible from people who want an ebook or something like that on, how to lower their taxes. But what I've discovered over these last 11 years is that there is a very deep emotional and behavioral component to all of this stuff, that if you don't have that part in place, the rest of the plan will quite possibly eventually crumble. Because eventually you're going to have a moment of weakness. And that moment of weakness may come while you're implementing the plan. You might freak out. You might go to like a bank in another country and someone looks at you the wrong way and you freak out. You say, I can't do it. And that might be the emotional thing that if you're not prepared for it, you might just abandon the whole plan. So are you really willing to do what it takes to be successful in doing stuff that you've never done before? If you want to live overseas, if you want to bank overseas, if you want to do anything overseas, it's all new, right? It's all brand new stuff. It's going to be uncomfortable. And the only way to make it comfortable is just to do it. Just like anything else. Practice makes perfect. If you're in sales, you know how this works. Anything, sex, right? The first time you do it, it's kind of weird and uncomfortable. But the 1,000th time you do it, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So I sent 117,000 euros over a wire and bought a house. I don't know. I think Anka's taking care of it. Let's hope, right? You have to build up that comfort. And for me, it was done by really being honest with myself. No BS, no nonsense. Not, yeah, I want lower taxes. It's got to be like really inside you. Because if it's not, you're going to find a way at every step to wimp out. You're going to become weak. And then you're going to run around, you're going to become emotional. You're going to flail your hands in the air, and you're going to want to give up. I know because I've been there. And I know because I've seen other people there. So when I talk about these deeper mindset ideas, I understand that for some people it's not as exciting as watching the 37th video on another passport. But here's the secret. If you've watched 37 videos on how to get a second passport and you've done nothing to get a second passport, you don't want a second passport. I'm happy to get the views. I mean, every view, keep on watching. And maybe it's just passing entertainment. I like to go around and look at random stuff every once in a while. It's fun, right? But if you're lying to yourself and saying, one day I'm going to do it, then that's where you've got to satisfy that chasm. And to me, behavioral and really kind of digging beneath the surface, which a lot of us guys don't like to do. We like to think we know it all. We want to be macho. We want to be smart. It's tough to dive in and be vulnerable and to really assess what's in there deep down. But it's the first step to really getting everything in proper order, and something that I really focus on, at least behind the scenes, in a big way. So if this is of interest to you, and if you have a comment or if you have an experience, I would like to hear about it below. Leave a comment. If you're trying to learn more about this nomad capitalist lifestyle and you like the idea of incorporating this mindset stuff into it, definitely click subscribe to our channel. So comment, subscribe. And if you're looking for some more advanced strategies, head on over to nomadcapitalist.com. We've got a lot of materials there, both on the mindset front and on the strategy front. And if you put it all together, then you're unstoppable.